Welcome back to the Other Side of 45 podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Black. This podcast is about taking chances, owning my mistakes, addressing generational and family trauma, completing my 50/50s by 50 list, and my life as a single empty nester. If this is your first time listening, welcome! And please subscribe and rate this podcast 5 stars. I'm back after a few weeks off. Excited to get back into the podcast game. My last episode was on my birthday, January 10th, when I turned a big 47. I needed to take some time away to address some family and brand issues, and although I'm still learning and dealing with this stuff, I decided to forge ahead. You see some new things coming soon. For instance, I've posted the first video on the Other Side of 45's YouTube channel. Yay, us! And this is February, which is Black History Month. And for Black History Month, I enjoy learning about Black history, and I appreciate those that came before me, who paved the way for me to be able to vote, attend any school, and to ultimately have this podcast. As a 47-year-old Black woman, I've had my fair share. I've seen and had my fair share of racism come my way. I've seen the progression of our community, and I've learned many things, like the history of Juneteenth. I didn't grow up knowing that. And I don't personally remember Black history being celebrated when I was in school. It could be that I just don't remember, or it could also be that we just didn't celebrate it. I don't know. Now, the only thing I remember my school doing that had anything to do with Black history, of course, was talking about MLK on and around MLK Day, because we had that day off for school. And I remember that, that Stevie Wonder song, Happy Birthday, that he made in honor of Dr. King. They used to play that every MLK holiday on the radio. Now, the cult taught us that it was wrong to honor humans, so my love for this song was not something that I shared. I would get so emotional listening to the song and the lyrics, and then when I learned the history, I got even more emotional. And I wanted my kids to share that. As a parent raising Black children, I wanted my children to take pride and have pride in their race, and to understand our past. In the world of CRT being the big hot topic, I recall when I had to explain slavery to my youngest daughter when she was in second, maybe third grade, I'm not sure. My youngest came home from school after a lesson in slavery and was mortified at what she had learned. I'll never forget the look on her face, and ultimately the loss of innocence. She said, "Mommy, they didn't think we were human." Having to explain racism and slavery to someone so young was heartbreaking. At the time, we lived in a very diverse neighborhood, and most of their friends were white. That conversation had to happen. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I wanted my children to know, yes, our ancestors were enslaved, but we are much more than that. Throughout their childhood, we visited HBCUs. We talked about noble Black people. I tried to balance their lives with people of all races and backgrounds while making certain they understood our struggle. I don't remember, again, if we celebrated Black History Month or I was in school, but I do remember what the girls' schools did for Black History Month. When my oldest was in the 6th grade, her English teacher asked the students to do a Black History Month project. The students were to write an essay about a person chosen by the teacher. My daughter was given Ice Cube. I was not happy. Ice Cube, the former member of NWA. If you don't know what the NWA stands for, it's the N-word with an attitude. I immediately sent an email to the teachers, including the principal and the email, both of whom were educated Black women. And I let them know that Ice Cube was unacceptable. The teacher responded, defending her choice, stating that Ice Cube had changed and was at the time doing parent-approved movies. Me bringing out that yet he was still made famous with horrific lyrics while in NWA. Now, while I respect his decision to use the language that he wanted to use, I felt that this was a missed opportunity to teach the students about people they didn't know. Now, notably, my nephew was attending a school in which the kindergarten students were given a similar assignment to my sixth grader, but they were told they could not choose standard Black leaders, the ones that everybody talk about, MLK, Rosa Parks, those. They were told they couldn't do that, and they were given very strict instructions on how they could present these projects. So I added this fact to my email to the teacher and principal, emphasizing that this assignment was on the level of a kindergarten class, but with fewer restrictions. The teacher chose famous people for the students to write about, like Beyonce and Oprah. So, being who I was, I did a quick Google search and I shared the results with the teacher, highlighting how easy it was to find other options that she could have used for this chosen project. We went back and forth, and I was just so tired of going back and forth with her that I finally accepted Oprah. Yeah, that was her next. She suggested other people, but then she finally said, well, what about Oprah? And I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired of talking to you. Yeah, sure, fine. We accept Oprah. Now, like I said, the principal was included on these emails, and she suggested an in-person meeting. When I tell you, holy cow, this was the most unpleasant meeting. The principal was new to the school, and basically she bashed the teacher. The teacher tried unsuccessfully to defend her list of entertainers by saying that most students didn't have access to the internet, but later admitted that the project was done during her class, and then she took the class to the library for the research. She also said she wanted to make it a fun project, but the questions that they had to answer in the essay didn't match what she was saying. Like, one of the questions that they had to answer in the essay was, what impact the person had on the Black community in the past 20 years? Now, one of the people that she used was Beyonce. At this point, Beyonce hadn't been out long enough to have a 20-year influence on the Black community. So it just didn't jive. At one point, I experienced secondhand embarrassment. The teacher eventually started crying. She was told she could no longer assign projects without the approval of the principal. It was a very uncomfortable conversation. Now, I do expect more of educators of color when it comes to educating our students, especially during Black History Month. This was a missed opportunity for this teacher, but I didn't allow that to stop me from educating my children myself. Like I said earlier, I've seen the progress that we've made, and I acknowledge them. Like, take nowadays, Blackish, which is in its final season, boo-hoo. They did an episode on Juneteenth, and they addressed colorism, which opens the lines of communication for the viewer regardless of their race. There are also the woke people on social media, which can be a double-edged sword, i.e. the Joe Rogan experience. So I've seen us go from having very little when I was in school, and if any choices for Black History Month, to what I saw in the 6th grade for my daughter to where we are now. I've seen the progress and how much progress we've made as far as educating not just our community, but the world. Anybody can have access to the internet and see these social media influencers who take time on their platform to highlight Black excellence. one of the reasons why I wanted, this is going to sound so crazy, but this is the truth. One of the reasons why I wanted to trace my ancestry was, I was kind of hoping I would discover an ancestor that did something noble, like an inventor or a civil rights activist. That is not the case thus far. But until then, I look at what we have accomplished as a community and in my family. My grandmother, and I think I've mentioned this on a podcast before, went back to school to get her high school diploma after decades of being out. It wasn't to advance her career. She just said, when asked, she said, I wanted to have my diploma. It wasn't enough for her to get her GED. She wanted that diploma. My grandfather, he had a successful business despite not being able to read or write. My parents survived segregation. My great-grandparents survived Jim Crow. Their great-grandparents survived slavery. All of these people in my line, they did what was necessary so that I have the options that I have, and my children even more so. And I try every day not to take that for granted. Now, my youngest was inducted into the National Council of Negro Women on December 2nd, 2021. The NCNW was founded in 1935 by Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, an influential educator and activist. And for more than 40 years, the iconic, Dr. Dorothy Height was president of NCNW. So my daughter's membership in this organization gives her access to a sisterhood of women that lead and empower and advocate for women of African descent, their families, and communities. Dr. Dorothy Height was also the national president of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated. I encourage both of my daughters to join women in power organizations and sororities. It is their decision to join. If they choose not to join, that's okay. Now, I will admit that I hope they choose to join the sisterhood, and I will cry in secret if they don't. I'm just kidding. Probably won't be a secret cry. By the way, these two women would have been great choices for the 6th grade Black History Month project, but I digress. Well, since I've mentioned sororities, I'll share some information about the sororities and fraternities that make up the Divine Nine, keeping up with since it's Black History Month. So there are 9 historically Black Greek letter organizations that make up the National Pan-Hellenic Council. Collectively, these organizations are referred to as, drumroll please, the Divine Nine. So, who's in the Divine Nine? There's the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity that was founded in 1906 at Cornell University. Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, founded in 1908 at Howard University. Kappa Alpha Psi, founded in 1911 at Indiana University. Omega Psi Phi. So I can say Psi when I say Omega Psi Phi, but not Alpha Kappa Psi. Don't understand it. Anyway, Omega Psi Phi fraternity, they were founded in 1911 at Howard University. Delta Sigma Theta sorority, founded in 1913, also at Howard University. Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, founded in 1914 at Howard. Zeta Phi Beta sorority, founded in 1920 at Howard. Sigma Gamma Rho sorority, founded in 1922 at Butler. And Iota Phi Theta fraternity, founded in 1963 at Morgan State University. Howard is no joke, y'all. One of the reasons why I wanted Asia to go to Howard. I did not mean to say that. She knows it. And I'm okay that she didn't want to go. That's a podcast for another day. So, speaking of the Divine Nine, and since I started talking about MLK, which is about as Black History Month as that we got when I was in school, Martin Luther King was a member of the Divine Nine. He was a Morehouse grad and a member of the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. Our current city VP, Kamala Harris, hello. She's a Howard grad and a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. So, in conclusion, guys, enjoy your version of Black History Month. Whether you listen to music, support Black-owned businesses, whether you choose a time to learn about Black history and or to teach your family. I personally use this month to reflect and to learn something new. Like, for instance, I did do a deep dive into the Divine Nine, and I learned about the history of the sororities, in particular, once again, Delta Sigma Theta. The 22 women that started Delta Sigma Theta were members of the Alpha Kappa Alpha on the campus of Howard University. They joined the women's suffrage alongside women that didn't even see them as equal. And they were breaking away from Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. The courage it took for them to leave their friends and form Delta Sigma Theta is the kind of courage and pride I want my daughters to embody with or without the membership. It's what I work hard to embody every day, a sisterhood that extends to all women. I want to be a productive member of the community and, of course, a good parent. And this is one of the many reasons why the theme song of my life is so important to me, because it's about who I want to be and how I try to live my life. Like Sister Mary J. Blige says, I like what I see when I'm looking at me, when I'm walking past the mirror. Don't stretch through the night. At a time in my life, I ain't worried about if you feel it. Got my head on straight. I got my vibe right. I ain't gonna let you kill it. You see, I went and changed my life. My life's just fine. So, of course, meet me on the other side of 45's podcast, the blog, the YouTube, Instagram. New episodes will be released every Monday. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, please rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts so that others can find it. It helps me grow my podcast, and I appreciate your feedback and support.